Hi. I have literally tried to film this 18 times, and it's a video about a tell-all I forgot even existed. So we're gonna try this for what feels like the millionth time and get it right, I hope. Hi. If you're new here, my name's Cozy. I like to snark on sister wives here on YouTube. I do like to remind you this video is for entertainment purposes only. These aren't facts, they're just my opinions about public figures sharing their lives publicly on television. Okay? Alright. So, Graham is in his crate. He is supposed to be going to sleep, but if you hear little movements, that's what it is. He is getting to be such a big boy, but he's still not ready to be out of his crate at nighttime yet because he's still a big chewer. So, how did I forget there was a season 1 tell-all? I have no idea. And I know it's not going to be anything earth-shattering, but I had completely erased it from my mind and thought, maybe there's some lore that we kind of forgot, or just something that's kind of relevant after all of these years. And frankly, I'm sure back then it was probably a big deal. And is it even really a tell-all if Cody doesn't yell at a host? Come on. So let's get this started. Let's take a search, see if we've forgotten anything important. So this is back when Natalie Morales did the tell-alls. And in all honesty, the vibes felt more 60 minutes interview than a tell-all, which I think is kind of what they were going for because they considered it a special at that time. And so the first question that she poses to Cody is about, how do you feel having put yourself out here as a polygamist to the whole world? And his answer is okay. It's pretty decent. It's kind of just like a PR answer because he's like, there was so much secrecy in the community and I just wanted transparency. Okay, Cody, but there is no transparency because you give us exactly almost zero about your faith, your church, any of that. The little crumbs that you do give us are really kind of the tenets of just about every major religion out there, or at least several that are considered mainstream. And we get nothing about what makes your particular religion and church so special. In fact, you don't even give us the name of the faith, being the Apostolic United Brethren. Sorry. And it's more like, trust us, bro. We're not the Warren Jeffs group, so it's all good. I'm sorry, it's hard to buy it when you're not really being transparent. And so then he goes on to basically blame America for this viewpoint that he's patriarchal, season 17, self-obsessed and narcissistic, and wants women to worship him. Robyn. And look, dude, come on. I know, it's all my opinions, but you kind of have shown those cards pretty well over the last 12 years. And we do have 12 years of hindsight to watch this through. Like, I'm calling it the season 18 goggles. And you can tell where I've got my season 18 goggles on. And so he continues to tell us that he's a man who gets schooled several times over the course of the episodes. What? Listen, the only person who really gave him any pushback, or as Robyn would say, kickback, was Christine. And even Christine capitulated pretty often. And when he says, I'm a well-trained man, everyone gives this like super fake laugh. He's like, yeah, well, the women don't really listen to me, and anytime I've tried to do anything like that, they've laid the smackdown on me. I also don't believe that. I do think he really gets his way more often than he'd like to say that he does, pretty much all of the time. Similar to what Nancy calls him out on later. So Meri says that when people find out we live in this lifestyle, everybody's shocked. And I hate to tell you, they're not. You run in a circle where that's super common. And frankly, let's be honest, if you live outside of Utah, a lot of people outside of Utah basically just make fun of Utah for having sister wives. In fact, even meeting members in person of the LDS faith, a lot of times when group settings, there is always that one person who's like, and how many sister wives do you want? They think it's funny. It's not necessarily funny, but it always seems to get said. And so Natalie's voiceover tells us that in 2010, there are about 35,000 families living in polygamy. And that doesn't seem like super astounding at first. You're like, okay, well, think about the population. It's not that many. But then you start doing people math. Like, people in polygamy is significantly larger. So let's do some polygamy math. So you've got 35,000 families, and let's average it out to 3 wives per family because that's the bare minimum you need to attain the highest level of the celestial kingdom in most polygamous faiths. I'm not saying all, but most. So that there already brings you to 140,000 people. And then if you say 8 kids, because it's about 2.5 kids per wife, which is, the average 2.5 kids per family. So let's say 8 kids per family. Now, you add those two numbers together and you get 420,000 people living in polygamy. No, I get it. The kids are not polygamists, but they are living in polygamy, if that makes sense. And that was in 2010. We've seen a rise in non-religious polygamy, so there's a good chance it could be way higher now. I don't know. So Natalie's like, listen, we can all relate until you head off to the bedroom with one wife. And I'm like, I can? Because it's just me here. I do the cooking, the cleaning, the taking care of the kids and the family. I don't think so. And so she says, well, is it entirely about intimacy for you guys? And Cody doesn't even get the chance to answer. He's like got his hands up and his mouth open, and Christine just like ninja dives into there to cut him off. And she's like, it's about family, love, communication, and raising incredible kids. And you know what? I kind of wonder what they'd say about it now. Not the PR answer, but like the genuine behind closed doors kind of thing. But this is where Cody says this awful line that chicks don't get it that a dude can have 4 best friends. Yeah, okay, my husband can have as many best friends as he wants, but he's not sleeping with all of them. And it's really a boneheaded comment, because I'm not sure what you're going for here. I would have thought you'd want something more positive, like put a positive spin on it. Like, I don't think people realize that you can have the capacity to love more than one person. And while I don't know if I agree with that personally, it still comes across way better as what sounds like, well, I have 4 friends with benefits situations going on here. And he goes on to say that these are his best friends, and he wants to tell them everything. Well, like, Janelle did tell us he leaks like a sieve. So they go over the jealousy aspect, and Meri's like, listen, this is my 3rd time going through this, and I have to work through it each time and get over it. And I don't know if you ever really do get over it, but they discuss the timeline for couch interviews here. As you can see, this is kind of all over the place, and it's not me, it's them. Well, it might be me too, I don't know. And Cody's like, there's basically 3 stages where you experience the feeling, and then months later you talk about the feeling, and then many, many months later you relive the feeling on television. And Robyn's like, this is why we're so over certain episodes. And which episodes, Robyn? The wedding dress debacle? The one where you get told that you can't have wife privileges on a fiancé salary? What? So they discuss the aspects of public life, and Cody's like, look, it's daunting. People know who you are. And he says, in the beginning, he covered up and hid a lot. And I would bet he probably does that now, because the backlash has been tremendous against him. And so Janelle's like, listen, it's about the children. We want to try and continue as many normal family things so their lives won't be dramatically affected. Well, we know now that the family things really didn't continue, so I don't know. The next segment, Cody appears to be in a completely different set, and he's like, listen, the kids have a love-hate relationship with filming, and you would, because when you're filming, you always feel like you have to be on. And so when the cameras are there, you have to feel like you are the best you've ever been. And now they're self-filming all the time, and all it takes is somebody to pull out a cell phone, and your worst moments are captured and sent off to Puddle Monkey without really a concern about whether or not you're comfortable with that. And so, I don't know, maybe it was better when the film crew was just there for a set period of time. But now they move, and Cody is on a rooftop, and I don't know where this production value came from, because we don't get all this scenery now. And Natalie's like, I think she has a fundamental misunderstanding of physics here, because she's like, hey, you're the moon, and they all rotate around you. And somewhere, Galileo is just screaming in the great beyond. But Cody says that the public has this misconception that there's this cat fight for his time all of the time. And he's like, these relationships are being nurtured. And no, Bubba, I think we nailed it down pretty well. Honestly. And Meri's like, there has to be a lot of honesty and openness in this relationship. And Cody's like, yes, and a lot of love and forgiveness at the same time. Okay, he says this to this day, and what he really means is that everybody needs to love and forgive him, but he doesn't need to love and forgive anybody else, in my opinion. So it is literally at this point 15 minutes into the interview when we get this voiceover from Natalie where she's like, in this hour we'll be hearing about all of these things. And it's like, I'm sorry, was this just the introduction? Am I taking notes for no reason? So they start all over again, and they tell us how Meri met Cody when she was 18, almost 19 years old. And she's like, I knew he was the one, and he knew that I was the one for the time. Could you imagine? Oh, and Meri's like, listen, we knew ahead of time we were going to live the plural lifestyle. And the voiceover's like, well, it was Janelle and Meri, or it was Meri who brought Janelle and Christine into the family. And I think that's a really generous way to put it, because the book that came out 2 years after the first season aired makes it much clearer that it seems like Cody was really attracted to Janelle and picked Christine because she was willing and would be kind of a wedge between that Meri-Janelle friction. So, yeah, sure. Okay, Meri brought in her former sister-in-law and the friend she wasn't as close with after a failed courtship with a completely different girl. Okay, yep, we're gonna go with that's how it happened. So, Natalie relates Meri's personality and her position in the family to that of a firstborn child. And as a firstborn child, yeah, I get it. I can see it. So she asks her, is it hard, considering you're the one who started it all, to watch this? And Meri's like, well, it depends on the day. And I like to think that she means that it depends on whether or not it's her day, but who knows? And so she's like, some days I don't want to see it. I don't want to see you be affectionate with somebody else. She's like, I understand you guys have a great relationship, and that's fine, but it sort of sounds like she's implying that she and Cody don't. And so she says it really comes down to how you're feeling emotionally that day. And they all watch back the clip where Meri confronts Cody asking how he'd feel if she had another man in her life. And I'd completely forgotten that they were all supposed to be able to weigh in on this. And nobody else but Meri did, because Meri's like, we were going through a tough spot. And add Robyn on top of that, and then she has to completely backtrack and apologize for saying it that way. And she calls it the situation instead. And Robyn pulls this face, and it's obviously a teasing face. It's not an angry face. But interestingly, the clip on the little monitor on the side table is definitely home video footage from Mexico and not the clip they said they were watching. I don't know. But Meri says the insecurities that she was already feeling really were magnified at that point. And Cody's like, every couple in America who has tried to make it work has been in a place like this. And yeah, everyone goes through rough patches, sure. But not everyone's able to just add a new woman and run off to her when things get difficult with their wife. So he says most of the time you're in love and you can say you love each other and you love your life together. And I wonder how that works out with his more recent statements about how he was never in love with anyone but Robyn. But I'm sure Cody probably would just brush it off. And Cody says that a lot of the couples never discuss those issues. But I have no idea what those issues are exactly because he never clarifies. I would bet a lot less of us have to discuss this specific jealousy issue. You're right. Because a work wife is considerably different than moving a new wife into our home. So they show the clip of the home video footage from Mexico again. And I actually listened to what Cody says this time because it just made me laugh. Honestly, there was no other reason. He's like, Mexico was made by God. And as a believer, duh. I have never opened up the book of Genesis and saw, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Except for that little bit over there, which was created by some bloke called Jeff. Like, clearly, bro. Also, which part of the globe are you insinuating was made by someone else then? That's concerning. But I just heard it and I was like, wait, what did he just say? Because I know people say it, but every time somebody says it, I'm like, what is that even supposed to mean? So then we come to the sadder part where we just continue to push Meri about this infertility issue. And I hate this because they shove this really mean, possibly the meanest storyline to ever exist ever, down our throats for seasons and seasons and seasons. And I hate it. But Meri does mention here that she had tried fertility treatments in the past, and I had kind of forgotten that she'd shared that detail. And Christine, I think, is really trying to be very genuine when she's like, we have all these kids, and I hope that you feel complete from that. And what I think she's actually trying to say is, we have this large family, and I hope in some way that helps to fulfill that aspiration for you to have a large family. I think it's just terrible phrasing. Listen, they started up this television show, and this is the storyline that for some reason the producers really wanted to latch onto, and it is a delicate and sensitive topic, and I think that they're trying to navigate it the best way they can on television, because Robyn echoes a similar sentiment when she's like, she's here for our kids, and so I do think they're both trying to be genuine there. But Christine shares that anytime she was expecting, she always went to Meri first and privately. so that Meri would have the opportunity to sort of tackle those feelings and sit with herself before everyone else knew, which is where I bet Robyn got the idea from. But I would have to bet that Christine probably gave Meri more than 15 minutes to sit and wrestle with those feelings. But Natalie flat out asks Meri if she thinks about leaving, and she admits that during times of struggle that she's thought, maybe I'd rather not do this anymore. But she reiterates, as she has in recent seasons, that she would never leave. She's committed. And honestly, I do think that Meri was the most committed to this lifestyle. I know people will be like, but Robyn stayed. And yeah, sure, but she's committed to Cody. I think for Meri, she was super convicted by those vows that she made to her family and to her marriage. So now it's Janelle's turn, and they show a lot of B-roll of the Browns just walking directly toward a camera. And it's not a wide shot, so there's no like interesting background of New York City. It is literally just them walking in the direction of the camera. But the voiceover reminds us that Janelle is the level-headed one, the thinker, the worker. And we hear the audio again of Janelle saying that she'd rather be at work than at home. And I know what that feels like because in the early days of our family, I was the primary breadwinner. I already had an established job. My husband was trying to find his footing in the career path that he'd chosen. And since I was already being paid decently, it just sort of worked out to help him establish that ground that he needed. Now I bring home next to nothing from YouTube, which is fine. It's not about the money. And he brings home the lion's share. Back then, I probably would have said, yeah, no, I kind of like being at work. I like the structure. I like all of that. But I've been home for a little while now, and I can tell you, I think I definitely like it better here. And also, I get to hang out with you guys, and that makes me really excited. So, suddenly, and without warning, they shared that Janelle was married to Meri's brother. And I forgot they discussed this on a tell-all. Like, was this special completely wiped from my mind the second it ended? I feel like I got Men in Black laser thinged. Because Janelle's like, yeah, it's so funny that people are so worried about that I was married before. It's not about that you were married before. It's who you were married to. Also, it's who you're married to now, because that's your spiritual stepbrother. We haven't brought that up yet. Also, Janelle, you asked, who talks about their failed marriages? You, for 2 straight seasons, girl. Listen, the beginning was so wild when you look at it through season 18 goggles. I'm just saying. So they ask about the finances, and Christine's like, thank you so much for thinking we're financially set. And I'm sure at the time, things were probably a lot tighter. It's my understanding that with most reality television, you don't get paid until it airs. So they would have had an entire year of filming, right? And then however long it took to edit, and then when it finally aired. So that could be up to 2 years past where you filmed. I think it was actually only a year for them. But Cody's like, listen, we're struggling to make ends meet, and then tries to justify buying the sports car. And he's like, well, it was 10 years old, and we bought it in a good year. And like, bro, you still could have gotten a decent sedan with better legroom for more people, and it would have been just fine for the work that you do. And Janelle goes through a bunch of the money-saving things that they do, like couponing, buying in bulk, buying a half a cow instead of buying meat by the pound, all things that are actually pretty smart to do. But they ask about health insurance, and Cody's like, my employer's great. But he was worried about discrimination at first, meaning not everyone was insured for a while. And he doesn't actually say if everyone is now. But they bring up Maddie's emergency appendectomy and how it's still being paid off. And Cody's like, that was the last time I ever made a decision in fear. I don't know if that's true, but okay. Because you're about to move to Las Vegas. So they bring up how Janelle is the least vocal about the courtship with Robyn. But that doesn't mean that she didn't have feelings about it. Because she says there were a few weeks where she was so angry she didn't want to talk to Cody. And so she's like, eventually we did talk. And he said all the right things. And I just melted. And I hate that. That's not good. That's manipulative. I don't like that. So we know later down the road, though, that Janelle is the one who calls him out on camera about wanting to ride off into the sunset with Robyn when they shuffle the paperwork. And then Janelle says, in like a 30-second period, she says almost 8 times, I think, that she was secure in herself, and that's why she didn't feel the need to be as vocal as Meri and Christine. And she's generally not as vocal in her emotions, but she just keeps saying, I was so secure in myself. I was so secure in myself. And it doesn't sound exceptionally secure when you say it that many times. So the clips they're showing in between the questions are like useless, honestly. But it's Christine's turn, and they bring up Christine's desire to be the third wife and how she basically just manifested that for herself and the Brown family. They rewatch Truly's birth, and everybody's getting a little misty-eyed. And Christine's like, that was the best labor ever. And the voiceover tells us that even though Christine grew up in a polygamous family, she still struggled with jealousy. Growing up in a polygamous family or not, she's still a human being. And Christine admits that she never really understood Meri and Janelle's feelings about how they had gone through all this jealousy. She's like, why would you be jealous or insecure? And then when it came her turn, she was like, I felt like I was being replaced. And Robyn's like, oh no. And Christine's like, baby, it's just one of those things. You know, those things that she calls everybody baby. I didn't realize she was doing it that early on. And so Robyn's like, I mean, it's so bad. I don't love that interjection because I don't know exactly what she's trying to say. It feels like she's trying to imply that Christine was so bad, or maybe she just feels bad. I actually don't know because I've got season 18 goggles on, and so I automatically just want to assume the worst. But we rewatched the whole dress debacle again. And Christine still looks upset on the couch. She's got her hand up to her face, and she is still clearly upset on the couch about this. Because I think this was still an issue for her. Whether or not she wanted to say it out loud, internally, I think this was still an issue for her. And she has a reaction when she walks out on the video, but we can only see her from behind. So it's really hard to say what that reaction is. Bless you. The puppy sneezed. But she does call herself out for walking out. And Natalie seems really sympathetic to Cody in a way, implying he was so blindsided by the reaction of his wives. Yes, go back to sleep. You're all right. And he's like, I had no idea this was a bonding experience for them. Okay. And he's like, I was coming out here and I was so excited. I guess I just got stupid. How do you not know that buying a wedding dress would be a bonding experience for people? I don't know. And so Natalie's like, Christine, why were you so upset? Was it just about the dress? And Christine's like, of course it wasn't just about the dress. It was the jealousy. And then just when she was starting to feel okay with everything, with all these changes, this seemed to be another moment to her where Cody was telling her that his relationship with Robyn was always going to be more important than his relationship with her. And that's where they left it. They didn't go any deeper than that, which I feel like today they probably would have at least tried, but that's just where they leave Christine's interview. That's it. So now it's Robyn's turn, and in all honesty, I have zero interest in anything Robyn's about to say, and call that unfair, I just don't care. I don't. They show the clip of Christine saying that it was about time Cody had a trophy wife, and Robyn's like, Cody has 4 trophy wives because we're all special. Okay, fair enough. And she says, we all have a different element of a woman that any guy would be lucky to have in his life. And I am sure David would agree with you. But the voiceover calls Robyn sweet and emotional, and I nearly spit my drink out laughing at that one. But then they ask Robyn, why Cody? And she's like, well, I made this list, and he fits everything on it, and I really want to live this lifestyle. Okay. But guys, Robyn says here, and this is, I'm telling you, she said this directly, that she knows and believes that as this experience continues, she will learn to be more and more selfless. I don't even know what I can snark on this about, because, like, what can I say that Robyn hasn't just shown us at this point? The word you are has the word self in it, but you've ended it incorrectly. So Natalie's like, why was there such a big gap between adding another wife? And Cody's like, it's not like you're out there wife hunting. He says, heaven forbid it's our cattle call. I don't think that's what he means, and I have no idea what he actually could mean, because listen, I know I'm not stupid, okay? But sometimes I watch this man speak, and I look at everyone around him pretending to understand him, and I think to myself, I must be the dumbest person on the planet because everyone else is pretending to understand what he says, and I'm like, I know that's wrong, and I have no idea how to fix it. But Meri steps in and just stops him from continuing to talk. And it was like, listen, it has to be the right person at the right time. And Cody, way ahead of today's slang, says Robyn gave him the ick. Okay, fine. He said that Robyn had an ick factor, but I'm still trying to be relevant on today's internet, okay? So apparently the wives didn't know this because Janelle and Christina especially are like, that's horrible. Why would you say that on television? And Robyn jumps in to defend him and was like, it's because I was divorced with kids. But she had to add the with kids parts because she was like, it was because I was divorced with kids. Because she's sitting next to the also previously divorced Janelle. And so Robyn and Cody are trying to defend him while talking over top of each other. And Natalie's like, what did you mean by that? And Janelle's like, I want you to remember there are a lot of divorced people in the world. And she like leans in and says it sort of menacingly to him. And hey, Cody, you're now one of them, both legally and spiritually. But Robyn has to jump in and save him from himself. And it was like, well, when you marry someone with kids, there's history there, and you have to, take all of that on. And it's a lot of work. He already had a lot of work to do. And I wish he'd been a little bit more self-aware at the time about how much work he already had to do. But you know what? Whatever. So the voiceover is sharing some of the struggles of sharing Cody with a new fiance. And it mostly just shows Christine struggling with him being away. But when it shows Robyn, it shows the worst fake crying she did in season 1, and I am still unimpressed. So when Natalie asked Robyn about feeling like she was pulling the family apart, Robyn starts she's like, I don't want to bawl. And Janelle, the absolute queen, is like, oh yeah, it's totally a joke on set. We're like, oh, Robyn's crying again. And Robyn's like, I will try to get it all out. And she's like, I know they were all struggling in their own ways, and I hate hurting people. And she starts to tear up. And Christine, who never had a relationship with these people, was like, we really did want you. And Robyn gets a hold of herself, and she's like, they had an established dynamic, and here I am coming to shake it up. And shake it up she did, like that little girl from Finding Nemo shook up her fishy friends. She was like, I would go home sometimes and ask myself, is this the right thing that I'm doing? And I can't say if she did or if she didn't ask herself that, but I wish she had done a little bit more reflection before she answered that question. Yeah, this is right. And Robyn continues saying that they're sharing a very precious person to them with her. And there's a special kind of love with these ladies. And Cody says that when Robyn realized that Christine's heart would break over this issue, and he always says this issue. He never says what the issue is. It could be anything, just a vague nod towards something. And I think the issue he's speaking of here is the kiss. But I could be wrong because he's being so vague about it. At any rate, he's like, it makes you introspective. I don't know if I believe that either, but okay. He's like, you start looking to the heavens, and Robyn's like, I'm questioning. Do I still? And then she backtracks and she starts over and says, Heavenly Father, do I still do this? I don't know why I thought that was interesting. I just did. Christine gets to tell us that when Cody and Robyn started courting, he got new communication skills and a new vocabulary, and I am not sure that's a good thing. But in all honesty, I think Robyn is actually the worst communicator. Hear me out. I think Meri and Christine are probably the best in different respects. Meri can be very upfront and direct about her feelings and thoughts, but very much so fails when it's time to respond or rebut. Christine is fairly open and pretty direct, but affects a certain tone or pitch when she's discussing something serious that can almost sound disaffected or come off as condescending at times, even though what she's actually going for is a softer, more open approach. Even Janelle, who may communicate better off camera in the early days than she did on camera, she tends to be a lot more direct and logically minded and tell you what she's thinking. Obviously, I'm basing it off of, earlier Janelle, rather than the Janelle we know now. But Robyn talks in a lot of circles, just like Cody. and I think has a tendency to latch on to a specific word or phrase and just keeps repeating it, going around and around in circles. And it's kind of like that old trick in sales or in radio where if you want something to stick, you say it 3 times. Um, that's kind of how it feels like talking to Robyn. So Christine continues on saying that he was more validating and Cody was changing and evolving, which was wonderful to her. And this is apparently the new strength Robyn brought to the family. And Christine's like, Robyn brought a coolness too, because the teenagers think she's cool. And Robyn's like, oh yeah, they're always digging through my closet to borrow clothes. Robyn's clothes weren't really that cool then and definitely aren't cool now. So I get a little bit sad when Robyn starts talking about her kids and how the little girls were all really close in age and they were playmates. But when she said that Dayton had Peyton and Garrison and Gabe, I actually got a little bit of a lump in my throat because all 3 of those young men have expressed wishing they could have their relationship with Dayton back. And so it's definitely sad to think about how it's changed because it does sound like he's not interested in that. And so Cody says that Robyn's kids are his kids and he doesn't want to take anything away from their father. That changed. And they just get 2 dads, like the other kids get 2 moms. And Natalie asks Robyn, do you think you're the last wife? And she's like sort of dancing around it. She's like, well, I'm really glad they didn't say that after Christine. And I think after 16 years they sort of did, but okay. And she's like, you never know what will happen. She's not willing to close the door on it. But back on the roof, Cody says that he's much more dramatic than the show lets him be. And I would like you to know, Cody, that in season 17, you get your Sandra Bernhardt moment and you let your dramatic side out. And your blocking is terrible. Natalie asks him if he's a playboy, and he's like, no, I'm more like a party boy with my 4 chicks. And bro, that's not great either. The implications are not what you think they are. So when asked if Cody thinks there's anything that we've misunderstood about him, he's like, nobody gets me. Whatever. I don't think we want to anymore, honestly. But this is where Meri said that she was fired because of the show. I don't know if that was ever really confirmed or what the story actually is, but that's the story they've gone on. And they discuss how there's an investigation for bigamy going on. Okay. When asked where things stand legally, Robyn's like, we're not lawyers. We know. But Cody and Christine say, hey, it's probably best to defer to our attorney. And Janelle's like, listen, I just hope that we get to have the family that we chose. And Christine's like, we've never asked the state of Utah to recognize our marriages. But, I mean, at this time, wasn't that sort of the goal? So the show actually does ask their lawyer, though. And he basically says there's no real reason to prosecute the Browns because there's no evidence of crimes or abuse. But, you know, fleeing the state of Utah was super necessary, right? But I am dying laughing as we head into this segment about tabloids and how every week a different wife is leaving because the last 2 seasons, that's what it was. We finally get to see all those old articles proved correct, and I don't know why that's funny to me. It just is. And so, this is the actual important statement of the entire thing, where Cody was like, oh yeah, if anybody wanted to leave, they'd get the children. And then he turns and looks Christine dead in the eyes and was like, if you're going to take the kids, can you move into the house next door and I'll pay you more? Like, what a crazy moment. I know that at the time that was not on the radar, but to have him in this very first tell-all interview look in Christine's eyes of all people and say that, oh my gosh, crazy moment, right? Because we know that he did not stick to this really at all with her. And then Meri's like, it's a matter of choice. And none of us are choosing that right now. Well, right now came and went for sure. And that's how the whole thing ends. And it's just like, oh. Just that last segment alone was like, holy carp foreshadowing, right? Like, just, oh my gosh. So, that's where we were at. So yeah, it's been a busy week. We had the twins turn 5 and I put the birthday cake that I made for them up for that. We had their birthday party on a different day than their actual birthday, just because of timing. And then my wonderful husband had a birthday yesterday. And I made him a cake for that, which was so much fun. We actually got to go out to dinner. It's been great, but it's been really, really busy. And it's really, really busy when your birthday and your kid's birthday are close together, which, believe it or not, that's not the only set. Our oldest and I, our birthdays are only 5 days apart. So, I mean, it's kind of a wild time when that comes back up. But it's been super exciting. I'm sorry I didn't show you guys the cake I made for my husband. It actually didn't turn out as well as I'd hoped. It tasted great. It looked ugly. So you didn't get a picture of the ugly cake. But now things are finally calming down. Everything's started going back to normal, hopefully. Hopefully. I don't ever want to say for sure because the wildest things seem to happen. But hopefully everything's kind of calming down, and I'm super excited because the next episode we get to talk about is the honeymoon special. And let me tell you, I am not waiting a whole week for that. We are going to talk about this nonsense because I want to talk about it. Also, if you guys haven't seen recently, I've been putting out a couple of shorts about some different things. Christine's Airbnb. It looks like Meri and her boyfriend did break up. And I do want to talk a little bit, probably just in a short video, not a short, but a shorter form video, about what's going on with Meri and her Worthy Up project. Because I did a little bit of looking, but not enough to actually put all my thoughts together yet. But I want to take a look at that and see what we kind of think about that. Because I know there are some people that are not thrilled about it. Gosh, sometimes it feels like, based off of the articles that get written about it, the Sister Wives fandom will never be happy about anything. But I know that's not true. You guys are pretty awesome. And you seem happy about a lot of things. So I'm excited for that. I'm going to go and try to put this video together and get it out to you guys because it is now almost 1 a.m. and I am shocked this actually got finished. So thank you for sticking with me. If you guys feel inclined, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do. I'm here to hang out whenever you guys want to hang out, and I will see you real soon. Bye, guys.